found myself when I turned on the porch. It was sun showering. Like clinking off the dragonflies, reminding me of something.
Michigan just has work hard, play hard in the most real way. They're super big network. I believe it has the largest network out of any university. Housing is a little tricky here. I have friends that live in Chicago and housing is less expensive there than it is here. So culture, we live in the Midwest. I've even just kind of been shocked, like the lack of culture. And welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Lorena. I am a graduated student, I guess. Now I'm an alumni from the University of Michigan. I just graduated with a bachelor's of science in biology, health, and society, and then I minored in business. And today I'm going to be talking to you guys about attending University of Michigan. It's helpful to know what to expect when you get here, or if you're just like curious about potentially applying to Michigan. I just feel like these videos are really helpful. And so I'm going to go through different types of topics, and I will leave the timestamps in the description box below or on the screen. Okay, so we're going to start out with academics and what you're getting yourself into. And obviously this is a perspective of someone that's primarily in the STEM world, but I do have a bit of awareness of what's going on in other fields just because my friends were in other fields also, in a lot of the different fields here. I will say that there are some things that are just kind of unnecessarily difficult, and I have talked to professors about this in the past, and they kind of are aware that this happens. I mean, Michigan mathematics is notoriously difficult, so some people even decide to take math outside of Michigan. So I would just take those things into consideration. I wouldn't let that deter you from applying, but just know that the academics definitely do match up. The name of the school with a high caliber institution, and I wish that it didn't have to be so difficult, especially for individuals that didn't necessarily have a good understanding of biology in their high schools, but that is kind of what comes with going to a really big school. Michigan is huge, right? Like, people are just trying to survive sometimes, and there are some classes like organic chemistry, like biochemistry, that are just very difficult. As far as like business goes though, I've heard really good things. I feel like the process is very different. I know for me, like in my Ross classes, you couldn't really fail a class, and so that was super nice. For some schools it is different, but at least with like STEM classes, it's gonna be hard. And that is just kind of the fact. And if you're a STEM genius, then by all means. But I also know that like I have very intelligent friends, and you just need to work hard to get a good grade. That's all I'm saying. But sort of the housing situation. Sorry, I'm playing with my hair a lot. I never have it straight, and this is new for me, so I'm just like, housing is a little tricky here. It's like notoriously expensive to live in Ann Arbor. I have friends that live in Chicago, and housing is less expensive there than it is here. So for your first year, you're gonna live in a dorm. I think that's required. Everyone lives in dorms. After freshman year though, I'm pretty sure you can move out, and I think you should. I just personally really enjoyed living out of the dorms because I got to make my own food and had my own privacy. As far as off-campus housing though, unfortunately this is a process that isn't really super streamlined. Essentially have to get your housing in place a year before you move in. It's just that the landlords know that there's a high demand for housing, so they will charge a really high amount, and on top of that, because they know there's such a high demand, they will also put unrealistic requirements on students, which is really unfortunate, but that's just kind of the reality, and it's good to be aware of that before you're going in to the housing market here. Alright, so moving on to the Michigan network. So Michigan has a super big network. I believe it has the largest network out of any university, so that's really cool. And I know people that get jobs because of the large network that we have here. As far as that goes, like, you don't need to be concerned because Michigan is so well known in the US but also around the world. In general, Michigan just has work hard, play hard in the most real way. Essentially, Students work really hard here at the university for the most part. So it's like living in extremes sometimes, which isn't the best, and not something that I particularly love myself. But I know that it does take place, and there's like certain bars, and I'm sure that if you look up like on Instagram the Barstool account, you'll find what I'm talking about. Definitely a party scene here, especially in the fall, because we have a really strong football team and athletics in general are really strong here. So people will tailgate before games and then, go out the night of the game. And it's just like, it's a lot of alcohol. This is not a dry campus. So culture, we live in the Midwest, and sometimes in the past I've even just kind of been shocked, like the lack of culture. And I think it's changing with time, and I think if you do want to be part of that change, then you should be on the front lines of it, pouring into organizations and student organizations that mean a lot to you, so that we can change this outlook. A little difficult to like rip the old Midwest like conservative culture out of school when it's literally in the middle. It's a very kind of integrated into Michigan life. Sort of like conservative, I don't even know, like traditional, sort of ignorant. As a Latina woman that's pursuing a career in STEM, who's also an immigrant, that it's really important to find your community here. And I will say that there are excellent student organizations that do a really great job of building community here, and I'm just going to shout out the ones that I am a part of. So if you are interested in pursuing sort of like a pre-health field, including nursing, I will definitely suggest joining the Latinx Undergraduate Medical Association. Me and a couple other people started this club, and it's been growing since, and I just think that it's important to have this on campus. Other organizations that are very similar, so there's the Black Undergraduate Medical Association, there's NAMA, there's other organizations that do sort of like similar things. And if you're interested in engineering, like there's like Black students in engineering also. I'm not 100% sure that's the name, but like those organizations exist. And then I will also kind of shout out my other organization, which is the Community-Led Interpreting for Medical Equity. And that one, we just like interpret for patients and physicians in clinics, and you're essentially translating. It's not translating, it's called interpreting, but that's what you're doing. You're like verbally translating, which is really cool. So if you speak another language outside of English, definitely apply for this. Community La Casa is just another organization that was super important for me, especially in my senior year. There's definitely organizations that are on campus that do a great job of promoting diversity and inclusion, and it's just so important that we keep these organizations alive and continue to foster a sense of inclusion. So because Michigan is such a large school, spots in classes fill up. Like if you're registering for classes later than most people, I would just keep that in mind, that sometimes you won't get your top choice for classes or your top choice for the professor, and you don't necessarily need to take all of your classes in a certain order. In addition to that, it's unfortunate, but you also kind of run into the same thing with housing and with mental health resources on campus. Just be aware of that. The parking in Ann Arbor is kind of ridiculous sometimes, especially during game days. You do not want to be driving. Usually, like on a regular week, you should be able to find parking and street parking in Ann Arbor. It's not going to be free necessarily. There are like little police security officers that ticket people. Speaking from experience, it's still feasible to have a car. And honestly, if you can have a car on campus, I highly would recommend it. If you're a freshman, I don't think this is as necessary, but after freshman year, you kind of realize that having a car is super nice, especially to go grocery shopping or if you want to go work out outside of campus. Those are my little pointers on Michigan. If you guys have any other questions, you're welcome to reach out on Instagram. I will most likely be faster at responding if you comment on this video, so just scroll down to the comments and leave your questions and I will get to them. And yeah, if you guys would like to follow me on Instagram or TikTok, I will leave both of those on the screen right now. I really appreciate you guys watching this video. I really hope that it was informative and helpful. But yeah, thank you so much.